Hi, this is the last in the series of demonstrations for project number 3, the colored pencil still life. Okay, before we start with the actual application of color, I created a color scale which I've described pretty well in the PDF demonstration, I thought. You need some marker value underneath it for your mid values and dark values. I'm going to do demonstration of this bottle here. I'll probably do the cover, the red cover, and the bottle itself. So I think the most important things here are building up this red and some of these values that go from very light to glaze of very dark. So I created the value scale, color scale, with value first, and then I went through my colors and picked out, I'm using Prismacolor pencils, picked out the colors that I thought would go pretty well. So that's the first thing that I want to do. And then the most important thing is that you get this marker value underpainting, called it a grisaille underpainting, as finished as possible, meaning all the values are there before you start to add the color. It's really important if you're going to be successful at this technique to do that, to get these values to really work for you. Otherwise, the colors aren't going to be bright and bold on top of, especially on top of the darker colors, the darker values, I should say, and colors. Color has value. So make sure that you get to that point where it's 100% finished. The only areas that you're not going to put any marker would be lighter and brighter areas than the paper color, okay? So some of your brightest, lightest colors, like the colors in this rose, these highlights in the glass, the label itself. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got something that's already been worked on, but the bottle hasn't been done yet, so that's what I'm going to focus on. So the first thing that I want to get is this really nice highlight. And it's going to be a placeholder right now. It's just going to, I'm not going to push, I just want to place it in there so I don't forget about it later, and I can work that up at the end of the rendering. Okay? And that's the only area that I'll probably use really strong white. There's a couple of highlights up here on the glass. And you've already done the reflective surfaces project, the last one, so you know how important those are. So I'll put a couple of placeholders there as well. There's a few little edges on that red cover, and I can get those. There's other highlights here, but I'm not going to use white. I'm going to use, I think I have a French gray here. This is a really nice, it's called putty beige. And it's, as you can see, it's sort of a grayish brown. Light, of course, grayish brown. So I'm going to use that for these highlights. And I'm not going to push too hard. It just, again, they're placeholders. I want to know where they'll be so I don't put color over it. I want to save as much of the paper as possible. So I'm going to put the highlights on the bottle all over. There's some down here. There's a reflection of this garlic in the There's some reflections on the side, and then there's also, within this reflection, there's some warm colors. So I'm going to use a cream pencil to start with, and you can see that I'm really not pushing. I'm just glazing lightly because I didn't put any marker there, so it's just the gray of the paper. Okay, so that would be my base color here. And then I'm going to bring a little bit of it in to that putty beige because I want to warm that up a little bit. So, and this is a foundation. This sets me up for blending another warm color into this surface. So what I'm going to use for that is I've got this It's a burnt ochre, and I'm just going to glaze and kind of knock that back a little bit and get a little closer to the color. The color is important. You want to try to get as close as you can to the actual color. If you can do that and get the right value, then you're probably going to be okay. If you don't have either one, you're going to be probably way off. But we get as close as we can with the color and then try to nail the value as much as possible. Color. I want to bring a little bit of a lighter color into the bottle here because it's transparent and it's picking up a little bit of this floor down here. And one of the colors that I used in the floor was pumpkin orange, so I'm going to use it again here. And this is the beauty of that, having that value first. So I've got most of the lights that I want to put in. I want to start working on the darker colors. Now I've got a really dark layering of marker underneath, so this is just going to be glazes. This is a deep purple, dark purple. Deep Purple was a rock band in the 60s and the 70s. I'm sure you guys didn't know. Smoke on the Water. Okay. So circular strokes are going to do it. You know, I'm going to stay away from these highlights because if I get into the light colors with this deep purple, it's going to turn really bright purple right away. In my PDF, I talked about mixing opaque colors and transparent dark colors. It's just not a good thing to do. Your bright colors, your light colors, you can mix away. But this is working out pretty well. Don't want to leave any marker, just marker showing. You want to put colored pencil everywhere. Next colors that I'm going to use are, I've used the deep purple, Tuscan red, and a dark umber. And the Tuscan red is going to be great for these dark reds. And it's actually, I don't know if you can see it, but it's brightening up that purple just a little bit in some of these areas where I need it. You'll see it here when I use it here. It's a really great deep dark red. And so it's blending in pretty well with that light pumpkin that I used, so I can see through the bottle a little bit. So there's all kinds of nuanced color in here, and that's what you want to look for. It's helping me to clean up my edges of the label too. The Tuscan red has gone in, so the dark umber is now going right over it and still knocking back a little bit, just a little bit. It's a nice dark brown, dark umber is. So I went from lighter to darker. And that's what I would just not always recommend, because you can actually do some nice lighter techniques that I showed on the other video right over a dark background. But in general, it's a good idea to go from lighter to darker. So here comes black. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but I can see the difference. It's definitely the darkest color that I have there. And it's in a few areas over here, right up against that leaf. Don't be afraid to use black when you have it, when you need it. And I still have plenty of paper surface that I can pull that waxy colored pencil off on, because I've been putting light glazes over it because I had all that marker value. If you try to get color and value in dark areas at the same time with just colored pencil without that marker base, it's going to be very waxy. And you'll run out of layering right away. You won't be able to do the same thing that I'm doing here, glazing different colors. So that's why we do this. So the colors that I picked out for this cover here, this plastic cover, I've got Scarlet Lake, which is my overall red. And then I've got for highlights, which I'm going to put down first, is the pumpkin. I used a little bit of pumpkin here. Then for the darks, I've got Tuscan red. So the first thing I'll do is, again, a little bit of a placeholder. I've got my values set like I hope they should be. They looked like they were going to work. And I'll start with just a light glaze and incorporate that in a little bit into the highlight. So this is my local red. This is that Scarlet Lake, which I'm going to bring in everywhere. I wanted that little bit of pumpkin orange as a base, just to brighten this up. Tuscan red for the shadows. A little bit of a lip right there that I'll get with the Tuscan red. A lot of times, and some people will ask, well, how many colors do I use in any particular area? And you rarely would be able to do something with one or even two colors. General rule of thumb is light, medium, and dark. So I would say minimum of 3 colors, minimum.